And a quick good morning to Adrian. The last time I saw Adrian, he was doing sound and video for the last in-person B-side San Antonio. So thanks everyone for having me. Excited to be here. My first time presenting. Sounds like you all have a really great group. Hopefully be able to present there someday in person. Looking forward to get back into in-person conferences. The virtual thing is okay, but nothing beats in person. So that's great for you all. Are there virtual? I mean, they're in person, and most of your presenters are in person. So thanks for having me. So they mentioned my background, so no need to really go through that, except for I'm an Innocent Lives ambassador and champion. So I bring awareness to this Lives Foundation. They help unmask anonymous child predators, turn that information over to law enforcement to hopefully apprehend and take these people off the internet and away from harming children. I'm also a hacking is not a crime advocate and board member. So my offensive security career path, I like to share this because it wasn't just a straightforward path. You know, some folks that get into cybersecurity nowadays, maybe they went to school, got a cybersecurity degree, some IT related degree or something along that lines. But when I graduated in 1984 from high school, we had computers in our school, but only the smart kids worked with computers. So I didn't know what I wanted to do for a career. I'm a powerlifter, been a powerlifter for years, and my friends said, hey, you should be a pro wrestler. So I went to wrestling school, did that for a few years, and got married and needed a more suitable to marriage occupation, because there's a lot of traveling with wrestling, and when you're getting started out, the money's not always steady. Because whenever I was wrestling, I also worked as a bouncer. And during my time as a pro wrestler, I actually wrestled a 750-pound bear, which you can see on this slide here. So the main reason for me sharing all this detail is some people think, you know, I'm not smart enough to do cybersecurity, I can't be a pen tester, but, you know, a former meathead pro wrestler turned you know, red teamer and pen tester, then anyone can do it. I never thought I'd get paid to use my mind when I was younger for an occupation, and I've been able to do that. So started as a pro wrestler, had to find a more stable career, became a CAD drafter, went to like a one-year trade school, did AutoCAD. That's where I got my exposure to computers. A lot of the places I worked at didn't have IT. So I would figure out how to fix things on the computers and found out that I had more of a talent for the computer side of things. So I taught myself how to build computers, took a Nobel network operating system course, got my first job as a sysadmin, did that for about 6 years, moved into InfoSec. The first part of my InfoSec career, I was doing network security. Then I moved into application security, and application security is where I learned about pen testing. And I got laid off from my job as a AppSec engineer for a mortgage company and applied for a job consulting as a penetration tester, which I got. And so I did pen testing for several years, and then I wanted to spend some time as a red team lead for a global consumer product company. So I got to find out some more of the details, and my most current role is a cloud pen tester. So during that time as a red team lead, the company's offensive security program, their pen testing, vulnerability scanning, vulnerability assessments, and all that was very immature. The people that were in IT, people even on the security teams, did not know the difference between a vulnerability scan, a pen test, or a red team engagement. And so this kind of inspired the idea of this talk, because you know, people, you know, this is some information people need to learn, because, you know, red teaming has been generalized over the years as just all offensive security, but it's more detailed than that. So that's where the idea of this talk came from, and I actually gave this talk for the first time last year at the Red Team Village at DEF CON. So kind of the agenda here, we kind of covered my offensive security career path. We're going to discuss what offensive security is, the different domains of offensive security, red team introduction, the red team tools, and a red team blueprint showing you how to become a red teamer as well as resources. So as Dr. C was mentioning earlier about being careful with these techniques and stuff you learn, this slide I created with the hack is not a crime is a new addition to that slide. But I would show the slide to my students in the semester. And I really like this quote. I first started in Spider-Man. Uncle Ben was telling Peter that with great power comes great responsibility. So any of these skills you learn, make sure you've got written. If you're not a pen tester, then there's bug bounties, different home labs that you can set up. As Dr. C mentioned, home labs. Also, there's great opportunities like Hack the Box, Try Hack Me that you can get experience with. So make sure you have written permission because you don't get in trouble, because there's sometimes you will find people that will want you to hack into someone's social media account, or they'll say they're going to have you want you to perform a pen test. So you need to make sure that it's not someone trying to take advantage of you and use your skills to help them do illegal activities. And so hacking is not a crime as an organization is trying to bring awareness that the skill of hacking is not done just for criminal activities. You know, the term, some of you that have been around for a while realize know that back in the day, hacking really didn't have a lot to do about breaking into computers. It was about building things. You know, you see these hackathons. It has nothing to do with hacking. It's coding. So a lot of the early hackers and stuff were actually makers. They were, you know, building different types of technology, altering technologies to do things that they weren't intended to do, and enhance capabilities. So hacking is not a crime. It's trying to help bring back the term back to the original use and not seen as just an illegal activity. So what is offensive security? Offensive security is assessing the security of target using adversarial tactics, techniques, and procedures, also known as TTPs. It's also commonly known as ethical hacking. And so there's several different domains here, but there's two main domains, pen testing and red teaming. And under the pen testing domain, we see different types of pen tests. You know, some of your most common pen tests that you normally see are network and application. A lot of those things are driven by PCI. PCI DSS really drove the need for pen testing for regulatory reasons. Not a lot of companies were getting pen tests done. And it's kind of interesting, when I started my pen test career in 2012, most companies hired consultants or contractors to do pen testing. They didn't have their own internal teams. And then now, several years later, a lot of your major banks have pen test teams and pretty good size teams at that. So PCI really made the need for pen testing. But some of the things it also did too is it made the pen testing so narrow focused that a lot of things got overlooked, and that's where you know, red teaming has become more important, because some of the things that were getting missed can be done through red teaming engagement. So we got networking, network pen test, application, cloud, social engineering, physical security, hardware, vehicles, your different types of transportation, your planes and automobiles. It's really kind of cool. I did an interview with Alyssa Knight on one of my recent podcast episodes, and she was talking about some of the things she's doing. She was hired to hack connected buses. So there's all sorts of really interesting things you can do. You can get into IoT, and those are really some fun areas to work in. And red teaming is really kind of a specialization of pen testing, more of an advanced type of pen testing. So red teaming doesn't equal pen testing. The term red team and pen testing have been used interchangeably for years. While there are similarities, there are distinct differences between true red teaming and pen testing. So there's some commonalities between the two. They're very similar. Red teaming is more of a specialization of offensive security. So they both have exploitation. They can have social engineering or phishing. They don't always have social engineering or phishing. That may be, it all depends on the scope of the pen test. Sometimes physical security assessments can be involved. And so the difference is there. Red team is, threat actor emulation, detection avoidance, less restrictive scope. With pen testing, you're not really emulating a threat actor. You'll use threat actor techniques, and you're not really trying to go undetected, because with a pen test, you've got limited time. Now, if you're an internal resource for a company, working for a bank, I'll get like a month to do a pen test. As a consultant, I would only get a week, and a lot of that's because of the cost of the pen test. You know, to pay a consultant to come in to spend a month on a pen test can get really costly, especially if you have a lot of targets you need tested in your environment. So time is of essence. You're trying to get through the test, so you're not worried about being detected. It's more stricter scope. As I mentioned, PCI has really made scopes really narrow. It's not about the need for pen testing, but some people just want the checkbox. They're not really concerned with the thorough pen test. That's not really what they view their need is. But honestly, when you're doing pen tests, trying to secure your environment, you really need to focus on the security. Make the compliance pieces part of it. And you know, if you make things secure, most cases you're going to fulfill that need for compliance. And so pen testing is vulnerability focused. So kind of a good way to explain the two. There's definitely needs for both of those, even like vulnerability scanning, just a vulnerability scan reoccurring, because the time it takes to do a pen test, you want to do your vulnerability scans in between. That's important piece of your vulnerability management program. But a pen test is vulnerability focused, so any vulnerability, and you try to exploit any vulnerability that you find. In a red team engagement, you're going through trying to find high impact vulnerabilities that can be exploited to emulate a breach. So you're going through trying to find one or two things that can be exploited, try to break into those. You may have a second one of backup in case you lose connection, and you can maintain persistence and get back in. But that's it. So you can see really the differences between there. So pen testing is kind of as your organization's maturing, and red teaming is once your organization starts to be a little more mature. And red teaming will, a lot of cases, use more of the social engineering, because sometimes that's the only way to get a foothold into the environment, as well as some of the physical pen testing. Because this is emulating real world threat actors. So this may be someone, this could be script kiddies, nation states, some kind of organized crime. And so the different type of attack vectors can vary. So there's a lot of common tools. A lot of the tools you use are the same. So we see Linux for our attack platform, Windows. A lot of people have gotten used to using Linux, but it's a good idea to use Windows too. There's a lot of good sysadmin tools that you can use there that are good for finding vulnerabilities for pen tests. So Linux and Windows-based tools, Metasploit, malware and exploits, command and control. So we see these are all similar, but the one difference here, we see vulnerability scanners. You're trying to be quiet, so you're not going to be running a vulnerability scanner during a red team operation. And so your malware and exploits are going to be a little more heavily used on red team engagements, sending phishing emails to try to get someone to click on some malware so you can get control of the environment. And then using C2 is heavily used in red teaming because it's a good way to deliver payloads to systems, different types of exploits and files, and it's easier to maintain persistence because if you're using Cobalt Strike and something happens, you have to reboot your attacking machine, then it's easier to connect back than just regular pen testing methods or hacking because you have to go through re-execute the exploit. In some cases with Cobalt Strike, you can maintain persistence, so that saves time, helps you to be a little more quiet as well. And you see a lot of the breaches of stuff that people, some of these threat actors are using, like Cobalt Strike, C2. I mean, it was intended for good use and not malicious use, but just like a lot of other tools that can be used for multi-purpose by multi-types of people. So kind of more of an introduction, detailed information on the red team intro. It's a scenario-based security assessment, emulating threat vectors, even simulating specific APTs, also known as advanced persistent threats. The goal of a red team operation is to simulate real-world breaches. Not only is the operator testing the security of the technology, they are also testing the people and the process. And one of the best descriptions I've seen for red team was given by Wirefall, the founder of Dallas Hackers Association, and he says that the red team tests the blue team. So that's a good point because you're not just testing the technology. And so red team operations can take more time to plan and perform. They rely heavily on OSINT to enumerate information on target technologies and employees, because in a lot of cases you're doing more social engineering and you're leveraging this through the employees that you find through your phishing campaigns or your OSINT to get additional foothold into that environment. And a lot of times you can go there, you're going to LinkedIn and you can see the type of technologies people are using there, because their DBAs may share what type of databases they're using. You may see what their network engineers, what type of networks that they use. So, so a lot of the information can be collected there to launch a social engineering attack against the employees there. So detection avoidance is very important to be a successful red team operations. We're impersonating an actual threat agent. And so as far as the planning goes, you can get into more extensive, minor APT-based threat actors to emulate, or you can be a little less customized and just kind of do your own thing using different tools and techniques that a threat actor would use. So red team operations rely on malware payloads to gain initial footholds in a lot of cases. So this is delivered through phishing emails. So evasion obfuscation is very important for malware success. And it's important for getting any kind of payloads or exploits to work in pen testing. But here you're really trying to not only get your payloads to execute, you're trying to go undetected. So you're wanting to be quiet while you do that, and you want to make sure that your payloads and exploits are obfuscated, which as time goes on, these different endpoint protections have become even more advanced, and it's a little more work to evade those systems. So command and control is an important tool to control compromised systems with their payloads, elevate privileges, lateral movement, and use for persistence. So this makes it easier to gain access to other systems using lateral movement, use to elevate privileges, and there's a lot of nice add-ons and scripts that you can use with like Cobalt Strike that makes your job easier as a red team operator. And so planning the red team ops. So planning the red team ops can be very detailed. Mapping APTs from MITRE ATT&CK framework and using tools like Vector. Vector is a really nice tool that you can map out to certain APTs. You can manage your operation as well as plan it out looking at the different APTs. So this is a really good tool to simplify that. And so they can be less complicated, as you kind of mentioned. You can just kind of do your own thing, because before these APTs are discovered, someone had to create them, so you can kind of do the same thing and create your own. So additional benefits is test people, process, and technology. If activities are not detected, the red team can work with security or the blue team to tune the security defense systems to detect malicious activity. This can be extended on to purple teaming. So purple teaming is something I highly recommend, and we did some of that at the company where I was a red team lead. It takes years of pen tests and vulnerability scans to get your maturity of your organization up to a good, safe level. But with purple teaming, you can go through and test different tools to see if they're being detected. If they're not, make sure you're configure your systems where they do detect that, where the people that are defending the network and the systems can more easily detect that stuff. So working with the defenders to make systems detect activities, as well as, not everyone needs to run PowerShell. You need to make sure that people can't run like invoke mimikatz or different tools on the system. So just taking away some tools from an attacker is going to make it more difficult. Now your more advanced nation states may be a little more difficult to prevent, but there's all levels of attackers below that, up to that you can prevent. Just be able to take away a tool from their arsenal is going to be able to help make your environment more secure. And that purple teaming, that is a really good thing. A lot of times people think about it. I really haven't seen just a purple team in a company. Usually purple teaming is a type of engagement like a red team operation. So it's a type of teamwork between the red team and the blue team. So becoming a red team operator, kind of like my Pentester Blueprint talk and the book, a lot of people are interested in getting started. So to become a red team operator, you need to build a base. So the technology basics, you need to know this. And a lot of people getting into pen testing or red teaming want to jump right to the hacking and the fun part, but you really need to understand the technology. Understanding the technology of the networking, operating systems, Active Directory, these are very important technology basics to understand. I came from a sysadmin background, so this was helpful to me because I already knew networking, operating systems, and Active Directory. If you don't know the operating systems, you want to know operating systems at a sysadmin level, meaning you know how to do administrative functions. On the firewall, you could, from the command line, you can shut down firewall, start and stop services if you have the right privileges. So those are some things that are very helpful. If you're a pen tester or a red teamer and you don't have that experience, you get a shell or a command line to one of the systems. You don't understand the command line, you're going to be doing a lot of Googling and research, and that's going to slow you down. So, make sure to take time to learn these things. One of the things I find myself doing over the years when it comes to learning is getting in a hurry to learn something. So take your time and learn this. Don't rush it. Understand those basics. Then you need to understand the hacking piece. So when I got my first pen testing job, security, network security, had a sysadmin background, but I really didn't have pen testing experience. I didn't have that hacking piece. So as soon as I started with the company, about a month or two into my career there, I purchased the OISF course, went through that, eventually got certified. And so this helped me build the hacking skills. So you need those hacking skills, how to use the tools and techniques. And the way you're going to build that is through repetition and practice. Things like Hack the Box, Try Hack Me, vulnerable VMs in your home lab. So programming and scripting can be important here, and it's really, for what I've seen, it's helped take pen testers and red teamers to the next level. Some of the best red teamers and pen testers out there, for a good example, is you look at like Harm Joy from SpectreOps. He creates a lot of good red team tools, as well as some other people in the industry. But at the same time, don't let not having those skills prevent you from pursuing an offensive security career, because I also know some really great pen testers that don't know how to code or script. But the languages that are helpful for scripting, Python and PowerShell, and then even Bash scripting as well for Linux operating systems. And then Golang and C# are popular. Sometimes PowerShell exploits are getting caught, so people have kind of moved over to using more C#. Golang is nice because a lot of these systems aren't picking up Golang currently, and you can build portable executables. And the thing that's so nice, if I want to build a payload to run on Linux and I'm using Mac OS, I can compile it to run on Linux, or I can compile it to run on Windows. So, with past programming languages, if you need to compile something to run on the system, you would have to compile it on a system that is similar, same operating system, fairly close to the same version. But with Golang, you can compile it on a totally different system to run on a system that's very different than the one you're using. So it's very, very, very good language, very powerful, lightweight. It was created by Google, and it's not quite as fast as C, but not far off, and it's faster. The tools are faster, more powerful than like Python. And so once you get the pen testing based skills, when I mentioned the other slide, you need to start focusing on some of the red team skills, like malware and exploit development. You need, a lot of times you're doing a lot more obfuscation and evasion. That's important on both sides, but when you get into your red team operations, you're trying to go undetected. Active Directory is very important. Be able to exploit Active Directory, because most enterprises are running Active Directory. And you can expand that skill set into learning the Azure Active Directory. There are some differences there. And some people have hybrid on-prem and cloud-based Azure and legacy Active Directory setups. So understanding Active Directory is very helpful in those enterprise environments. Phishing, social engineering, and physical security exploitation are skills that you'll use more often there. So kind of the hacking skills learning path. I recommend the OSCP because one of the things it does, and some people complain about the try harder mentality, but one of the things was that when I went through the OSCP, it really did a lot to help me hack and help me build my hacking foundation. So I highly recommend that, and I would go through the exam. You know, you can put in the time and effort and really learn these courses really well, but the certification process, what I've found is it forces me to work harder. You know, you have to get to a certain level if you're going to pass the OSCP exam. It's not like you may think, I know this well enough. This forces you to know it well enough. Hack the Box and Try Hacking are good places to learn. Hack the Box is a good place to test what you've learned. They have the Hack the Box Academy now too, so you can learn from that. And Try Hacking is another one that I like that's really good for people that are beginner level hackers. That kind of gives you some detail to help get you started out. And then social engineering, which social engineering, you know, there's different types. You can do your phishing and vishing, you know, that's the voice, like calling someone on the phone, smishing through SMS messages. You know, that stuff is not as difficult. The in-person stuff, you know, if you're kind of a nervous type person, then calling someone on a phone or trying to, you know, gain access to a building, trying to pull off a certain pretext may be a little more difficult for you, but as far as a red teamer, having the phishing skills and stuff like that is important. If you can't really get past the in-person social engineering, then that's not going to stop you. There's people that specialize in that area, and there's some people that's pretty much all they do. You know, you take Jason Street, for instance. You know, he's an excellent social engineer, and that's mainly what he focuses on. He uses his hacking skills once he gets into the network or gets a hold of a computer in the environment, but there's some people who specialize in that alone. And so learning paths for red team skills, Pentesting Academy, the red team labs, and eLearn Security, which is now INE, their penetration testing Extreme is not listed as red team, but it is a red team course. Hack the Box Pro by Rasta Mouse and Rasta Labs on Hack the Box Pro, and 0 Point Security. He spun off his own course through 0 Point Security, which is a really good one. I went to that. They've got an environment where you have to send a phishing email to gain official foothold, initial foothold in that system. So it's a really good one. They have Active Directory in the environment, servers. You're coming in from, you know, you have a simulated external facing environment you're coming from to get into network internally. So that's a really good one. So different tools and resources here. So APT planning, attack.miter.org, that's a really great place to learn. A good way to get the idea of the hacker mindset, the threat actor mindset, seeing how some of these attacks are pulled off, the different tools they're using. And then Vector.io, I mentioned that application earlier. This is a nice one for planning out your red team operations. You can plan it out as well as track your red team operations. And then your command and control or C2. The C2matrix.com is a great resource for finding different C2s. Cobalt Strike is a very popular commercial one, but there's other tools that are free that you can find on the C2 Matrix. One of the free ones, Silent Trinity, and then Empire, which fortunately BC Security has taken over because once Python 2x was deprecated, the software had to be rewritten, and BC Security updated it. And then Damio C2 from Vertical Start Team Aries. This is a Go-based C2, which came out last year, right around DEF CON. And then operating systems, Slingshot Linux by Sans. This is a good one. It's a VM with the different pen testing and hacking tools on it. It also includes Vector.io app, so you can plan out your red team engagements. And so this is not only geared towards pen testing. There's some red teaming specific things like Vector on there. Kali Linux and ParrotOS are great options for other Linux-based hacking operating systems. I've become a bigger fan of ParrotOS because last year I was doing a Wi-Fi pen test and just trying to get some of the tools and stuff to work on Kali Linux, as well as setting up the GPU cracker just wasn't working. So I went over and set it up on ParrotOS, and it worked really well. I was really impressed because ParrotOS has good documentation supporting their product. Whereas kind of Linux, if you're looking stuff up, you're going to usually find it on their forums or online for someone else that's figured out how to fix something. But Parrot OS, I was looking up information on how to set up the GPU for Hashcat, and there was like a little article that they had on their website that showed how to install the drivers. It was straightforward, and I was able to get the GPU drivers installed in 15 minutes. So prior to that, I didn't have any experience with Parrot OS, but I'm really a big fan of it now. And then there's Commando VM by FireEye for Windows. It's a set of scripts that will install hacking tools on a Windows VM or Windows bare metal install. And this is very important because a lot of the sysadmin tools are good for enumerating Active Directory. It's good for hacking Active Directory. There's a lot of different system tools that are very helpful. So if you're a pen tester or a red teamer, it's a good idea to have access to a Windows environment for testing as well as a Linux environment. So some other course resources, HackerBox Pro, as we mentioned, Rasta Labs, Pentester Academy's Red Team Labs. Sector 7 has some great courses. They've got malware as well as red teaming courses, and they keep adding to their courses, and they're pretty inexpensive. It's usually around $250 to $300 per course, where if you went to some other provider, it would be probably $1,000 or thousands of dollars for the same stuff. And 0 Point Security, as we mentioned, that course. You learn security IDs, Pentesting Extreme, and SpectRops. Their adversary red team operations course is good, but one thing to keep in mind, if your company does not have Cobalt Strike, this course is based around Cobalt Strike. So you definitely need to have that in your environment for that class to be helpful. So it's a really good way to get to learn Cobalt Strike. They have a lab environment set up, and you're trying to attack the other systems on there using Cobalt Strike and some other tools. And 40 North Security, they've got some great stuff. Their initial access operations and intrusion operations, because usually there's two parts, just more the red team piece, and then there's kind of part of the malware development and stuff like that. Some of these courses get into that. And Silent Break Trinity, Dark Side Ops Malware Dev, and Dark Side Ops Adversary Emulation. So your malware development versus the red team simulation. And then SANS has their red team exercise and adversary emulation. And then Cobalt Strike has links to some different documents and YouTube videos on how to use their product. So certifications, there's not a lot of certifications in that area now currently, but it is an advanced form pen test. It's a next step. If you're a network pen tester, you know, you're really good at social engineering, then that's a good next step. So red team focused certifications, Pentester Academy, and then 0 Point Security as well as IE. And then pen testing focused certifications, offensive securities, OSCP, OSCE, OSWE, and then the SANS certs are very sought after in eLearn security. The eLearn security certs are kind of starting to become more well known, and people are asking for some of those certs and the job requirements. But you know, typically if you have like an OSCP, one of the offensive security certs, those go a long way for getting employed. My second job of my pen testing career, the company I went to work for, since I had the OSCP, they didn't put me through their technical assessment, where a lot of these companies will give you a vulnerable VM or an environment or maybe an application to perform a pen test against, try to hack into a system. So since I had that experience, it got me past that point. So those are some of the different things that will help you out career-wise, courses and stuff. And so books, there's not a lot of books, but as I said, you know, pen testing is kind of a prerequisite for red teaming. So there are a lot of good books in that area, but for red team focused, the Red Team Development and Operations Practical Guide, Joe Best is one of the creators of that. He currently supports Cobalt Strike. He used to work for SpectRops. He was a red team operator there. And this is a really good book because this will show you how to set up like a red team. I used this when I was setting up my red team at a previous company. So they have red team in place. So it shows you the different types of documentation and things to consider and plan for red team operations and setting up a red team. And then the hands-on red team tactics, a practical guide to mastering red team operations. This book, one of the reasons I really like it is because it's got information on Cobalt Strike. A lot of different resources don't really share about Cobalt Strike, so this is good. And then the Hacker's Playbook. This is a great series, but the latest version of the latest book in the series, version 3, is the Red Team edition. So it's focusing more on Red Team type of skills. So that's a good one to use there as well. There's some different blogs here, and I've shared the slides that we made available, but different people in Rostamhouse, HOSSEC from, I think it's Ryan Cobb's blog, from SpecDrops, and then you have the SpecDrops blog, Harmjoy from SpecDrops BC Security, Vincent Yu has a lot of great stuff, and iRed.team, that's a very helpful blog. You know, I really relied a lot on HOSSEC, iRed.team, and Vincent Yu's blogs for red teaming. So like I said, these slides will be made available, you can check those out. And here's my contact information. You can open this up for Q&A, but also one of the things I want you to know is feel free to connect with me on social media. And also, you know, I do a lot of mentoring and answering questions. So if you have any questions, you know, connect with me on LinkedIn or email me. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have and help you get started if you're interested in getting that area. So one of these areas I'm passionate about, it's not only my job, and not only I teach it, but it's kind of my hobby. It's something I'm very passionate about. So if we have any questions, we can open it up.
All right, Phillip, thank you so much. This is wonderful. I mean, I know you can't see me right now. I might come over to the camera. Again, thank you. We're going to open it up for questions. So if you have any questions, just let me know, or you can come up here. We speak into the microphone. We have the cordless one available if anybody wants any questions. If you're online, virtually, and you have a question, just raise your hand virtually, and we'll get to you. It sounds like I need some new references. Hey, Phillip, just want to, you know, going back to your beginning and your intro, sounds like we were close in age there. I wrestled in high school and college. I fortunately, though, was able to take some of those high school classes because our high school that I grew up in had some Apple IIe's. So I was fortunate enough to be able to take those in high school. But that's what really got me started. And of course, War Games. Anybody remember the movie War Games with the Whopper? That was pretty cool too. So, yeah, I saw. Hey, I just wanted to ask you real quick too. So I saw I didn't see EC Council with the CEH. Is that not like a big cert anymore for the pen testing side for ethical hacking, or do you guys, is that kind of dying off? Just kind of curious about that.
Yeah, it's one of the things about it is it's really their exams, question and answer. I know they came with a practical one, but as far as professionals in the industry, people that are experienced pen testers, that's one of the certs they don't ask for. Now, if you're doing business with the government, they like for you to have DoD certs.
Right.
And my second consulting job, we had a project that we were bidding on. If we got it, they would need a CEH, and they asked me if I would go take the exam if it was needed. But we didn't get the job. But yeah, cert. So that's part of the reason for it. But I actually value the Pen Test Plus more, but trying to get a job as a pen tester, CEH and Pen Test Plus really don't help a lot. I mean, even like for some of the entry level certs, the EJPT cert from INE, which is their eLearn junior pen testing cert, that one is pretty good because there's a lot of hands-on to it, and that's what employers are looking for. They're looking for practical knowledge, not just be able to answer the questions.
Right. Yeah. No, I was just curious. I didn't see it up there, so I just wanted to, make sure people were aware of that. I'm very familiar with the DoD 8570, which requires the CEH for an assessor side of the DoD side. So I understand that. So that's why I was just curious. OISF. Yeah. And then of course I have the other the pen testing playbooks. Now I need a new version. Sounds like because I haven't. Bought the new one lately, so now I got to add to my library. So thank you for that. And some other great references. It's a good one. It's a good series of books. Yes. The first two were definitely very, very good. Looking forward to now getting the third one. seeing what the contents are of that. But other great references. Really appreciate this. Any questions out in the crowd here locally or virtually? Nobody's got any questions? Oh, we got one in the back.
Did he beat the bear?
Did you beat the bear in wrestling?
No.
No? Was it a draw?
Well, the bear didn't take me down.
Was he
and I didn't
drugged?
pin the bear. I didn't take him down. So, but the interesting thing was, out of the people that wrestled the bear, I did the best against the bear. But he was like taking people's legs out from under him. So if you go back and look at that picture, he's got his paw, his arm, his front leg around my legs, trying to take me down. And when I saw the other guys wrestling, him taking their legs out from under him, I got down kind of in a wrestling position or a lineman position, so my legs were out to prevent him from being able to get a good hold of my leg and take me down.
Okay, any other questions? Yes. Is that a hand? Yes, no? Maybe so? Anybody online? Did you see any hands raised online?
Nope.
No, I'm gonna come over. So we have, we're gonna send this to you, Phillip. I know you can't see. I'm gonna come over to the camera and show it to you, but we got a gift for you, and Paul's outside right now. Oh, there you go. So if you turn on my camera, I'm gonna come over. I know I'm not on the other mic, but there we go. So OISF logo. It's a nice beer mug. So beverage of choice. So we got these for the guest, all the guest speakers, and so at the end, we'll send it out to you, and we have another gift for you too, and I have a letter for you too. So again, I really appreciate this that you taking the time to do this morning. I know you're a different time zone, you got other commitments and stuff like that, but we really appreciate you taking the time to do this for us this morning.
Well, thanks for having me.
Any last chances for questions? Otherwise, we're going to transition to the next speaker. And as we do that, I'll stay up here on the podium because Michael, you said you wanted to use the podium, correct? Yeah. Okay, so let me get transitioned over. Okay, so as Dale's switching over, all right, so Micah Brown.
Oh, let me stop this now. That way we can do the intro at the beginning of the person's talk.
Sure.